Hi everyone, my name is Vaishali and I'm the founder and president of CareGenna. And here I am today with Neil, who's the CEO of ACSI Labs and also the advisor for the UN initiative. Thank you.
Hey, Charlie, how's it going?
It's going good, yeah. I'm very happy to see you here. Okay, I guess my first question for you would probably be, I guess, what specific challenges or opportunities within the realms of entrepreneurship and public speaking motivated you to establish, the AI for Good initiative or, ACSI Labs?
How much time do we have? There's a
It's
hey, lessons learned, a lot of miles here. Um, I guess I'll start with the United Nations AI for Good initiative first. Uh, I think for as long as I can remember, I've been really a champion of social good. That rising tide lifts all boats, and so it's really about community and ecosystems. And when you think about some of the large problems we have in the world, and you know climate change and digital divide, and not to depress everybody, it can seem overwhelming. And I feel like everyone can play a part to help solve these problems. So it's not that one person's going to figure out how to solve climate change. What's really going to happen is it's a bunch of people doing small things, micro actions that really add up. And that's what I really learned throughout my career is it's those micro actions. If you can get that going, in the aggregate, they build out something really good. And that's what you really want to do as an entrepreneur and a champion of social good. It's the same thing with ACSI Labs. You talk about, is there a better way to teach people to clone expertise? Could we teach skills that we think are unthinkable, like creative thinking, rather than focus on the impossibility of it? Because I don't believe anything is impossible. It's really more about, well, how do you do that? What's that first small step you take towards, solving that problem? Not how do I leap forward and go from problem to solution?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you for I guess your story. I guess would you like to share one pivotal moment that ignited your passion?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if there was one moment like that, like the aha moment. Maybe a few things kind of added up, but I know the two big influences kind of early in my life kind of shaped my thinking. One is that, just grew up as a poor kid from New York. And so there was a real strong sense of community. Like you knew all your neighbors and the people in the neighborhood. You know that you need to rely on people and have that trust factor to be able to do things. So I
Mhm.
think that instilled, a big sense of community and the need for we call ecosystems today. I think the second is that, this is as rough as we had it. My parents were always pretty good about, trying to introduce different cultures and ways of thinking, all these things. So try and do some level of travel, like even just going to Canada, for example. And so it was a chance at a very young age to see that, people in different parts of the state and people in different countries, they live a little bit differently. Some of that is because of the environment or the weather, but there's different kinds of ways of thinking. And I think it really opened my mind up to understanding that there's a diversity of perspective and thought. And to really be able to work with people and understand some of these things, you have to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, I truly agree. Yeah, I guess really understanding one's background and own the capabilities and limitations can really help you grow as a leader and also kind of like know your team better. I guess in what ways do you think your initiative has adapted to like the changing landscape of entrepreneurship?
That's an interesting question because with the UN, right, it's a big bureaucratic organization, so very slow moving. And when we first kind of concocted the idea of AI for good, the way to really make this successful isn't just committing some resources, a little bit of funding, but try and run like a startup. And I will tell you, there's two questions I hear a lot in my life. And at the beginning, I hear the question, are you crazy? When people, I was telling people what I was trying to do, they're like, are you crazy? So it's like, again, it's not that it's impossible. It's just trying to figure out the right path forward. And so trying to
Mhm.
instill it entrepreneurship culture, the partnership, all these things. I mean, we started with something really good. I mean, within 6 months, we already had a huge following of, we had a huge community of volunteers. We had several projects. We had some of these just going, and everyone's kind of looking at it going like that. Even the other UN folks are kind of looking at it like. Second question I then hear is like, how on earth did you do that? That's
Yeah.
what people are asking, and I think that's just the philosophy we have to go in. So realizing that there's a really great talented pool of entrepreneurs out there. One of the things we did within AI for Good is start the Innovation Factory, which is actually a global program for social impact entrepreneurs. So
Mhm.
we literally work with thousands of companies, startups every year, and we help provide resources, mentoring, coaching, data, equipment, funding, all these different things because one, it's not just the right thing to do, but two, I've also learned that local problems have global solutions. Like,
Mhm.
there was a startup team from Malawi trying to figure out how to better upskill people so they can get better jobs than manual labor. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
great because if they solve that, it's not a problem just in Malawi, it's a problem pretty much in most parts of the world. So that's kind of how we adapted that, spirit of entrepreneurship and try and promote entrepreneurs.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, a few years ago, I participated in UCI Gaddy, and yeah, I heard your speaker session, and I was very inspired. So, yeah, I guess would you like to kind of talk about your experience at UC Irvine?
Sure. So, there's lots of great programs. I wish those existed when I was a student. So I'm a little jealous. But I think, universities and particularly, my alma mater, UC Irvine, has done a fantastic job in trying to promote that spirit of entrepreneurship. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, those are important skill sets to have. So we've gone to great lengths to establish programs and build our own ecosystem out. So we have something called UCI Applied Innovation, which is kind of the central hub that brings together programs like Gotti, like you went through. We have the new venture competition. We have the Butterworth and Beal product competitions. There's a whole slate of things like around climate change, entrepreneurship, energy, renewable energy. I won't bore everybody with the entire list, but I think it's really trying to bring that spirit forward, especially with college students, because you have the huge advantage of not kind of being corrupted by what works, as we say in the business world. That you can come in with those fresh ideas and look at things differently and figure out better ways of doing something rather than say like, well, we've done this for 20 years. What are you trying to fix here? Right? Nothing's really broken.
Mm. Yeah, I guess, so, uh, like, would you like to share of an example where, you navigated through a disruption from your, I guess, your process of entrepreneurship and then the lessons that you learned from that experience?
And that's interesting. I never thought of it as a process, but it probably is. Right? It's what I've learned is that there's problems. We all experience pain points, right? It might be at work, it might be at school, it might be in the community, it might be with our hobbies. But most of the time, we kind of just accept it,
Yeah.
right? It's like that's just kind of the way it is and the way it works. What I've learned with entrepreneurship is that you don't accept that. You're thinking about like, well, how could we actually fix this problem? How can I address this pain point? And right, and that's when you start really then thinking about understanding what's causing the pain point, what's that unfulfilled need, then
Mhm.
figuring out what makes the best kind of fit solution or product for that. And
Mhm.
so we have to be really careful as entrepreneurs that we're not building something that we want, but we're building something that customers really need. Sorry, excuse me. I seem to be got
I
something
don't
caught in my throat here.
know.
Okay, that's better. Sorry. But We're actually going out and talking to customers, and we're building the product that they need rather than the product that we want. And that's what it really takes to be successful. And
Mhm.
so that means talking to customers. If you've ever followed Steve Blank's business canvas model, step one is interview 100 customers. And I found that's really powerful to do. That helps you set you on the right path.
I guess from, interviewing, so I guess like as a young teenager like me, like currently I'm a senior, if I were to like start a startup, um, how would you recommend that I go along with like, setting up my, I guess, like the population, I guess, whoever I'm interviewing? Because let's just say I'm not that like socially active.
Uh, you know, introverts make great entrepreneurs. So don't tell anyone. Don't sell yourself short on that front.
Hmm.
If anything, introverts are more self-introspective, which is actually a powerful skill set when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So if you're trying to figure out how to do some of these things, it's just understanding what you need, what you need to learn, and finding those few least right advisors or mentors to help kind of coach and guide you along the way. Man, excuse me. I don't
No.
know what's up in the air here, but that's a huge power of ecosystems. So I always tell aspiring entrepreneurs find a good fit ecosystem because that's what they're designed to. It's meant to be a hub. If you even just don't even have an idea that be like, I see this pain point in college application process, for example, right? That's just the way to start talking and connecting and build some of those network relationships. Connect with people that share your desire and passion for an idea and actually vet something out. And then along the ways, you need more resources. Like form a company, you need to build a team, you need to find customers to talk to. That ecosystem is going to be there to help bring those resources to you. Rather than back in my day where you had to kind of scatter around and try and figure out where they are.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think for anyone listening to this, I think also, not being afraid to reach out. Because personally, I utilize social media and as well as, the community, like my dad's connections, my mom's connections. So I feel like, just don't be afraid to talk to people and also just reach out. Um, I guess so, are there any like specific lessons that you've gained along your journey that you first know or wish that when you started, you would have known?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, my first startup, there were no programs, there was no like information on the internet like this stuff. Even my co-founders, I probably made every mistake you possibly could make. And I probably made it 1,000 times before by 1,000 different startups.
Mhm.
But the old cliche is good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So I definitely learned the hard way. I think if I could have found some mentors, if I could have found maybe some industry experts, we would have done a lot better. We could have learned from their mistakes and made whole new ones, which is really what you want to do.
Mhm.
And that's why I really encourage people that if you're staying on this path, and again, even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you just want to be an entrepreneur, right? Or you want to be an innovator, you have to be willing to take risk. Risk is not a bad word; it just means uncertainty. You have negative risks, which are threats, bad things happen, and you have positive risks, which are opportunities where you can create value. And that's what you
Mhm.
really have to learn how to do is figure out what those positive risks actually are, and then learn how to balance that out with the, the capabilities and the restrictions of being a business. Right? There's lots of great ideas out there, but sometimes it's just not technically feasible, or that's not really what the customer needs right now, or it's just going to cost too much money to try and do. So you got to find that perfect kind of product market fit, take some risk, and it takes some good advisors and mentors to help you figure that out.
Mhm. And I guess, reflecting on this, utilizing, I guess, your network. and building networks. I guess, how do you measure the effectiveness and the impact of your startup, or, just, your initiative in general?
I mean, for most companies, you obviously measure it in revenue and profit and market share. That's not necessarily, especially early on, the best way to actually do that, right? You should really think about milestones. That's why I tell people is like, okay, what are your key milestones? Is that coming up with like a CAD design? Is that building a prototype? Is that finding that first pilot customer, right? You have a series of milestones you need to progress against. And then as you accomplish those milestones, that's a much better way to measure impact and progress.
Mhm.
For the UN work, we're actually required by all the member states to measure the outcomes of any work that we do. And so we look at the actual impact. Like this group, they have more access to food? Are they building more hospitals? How's the level of healthcare improved? So we actually measure across these boards to see how many lives we've actually impacted. And in about 5.5 years, we've impacted 1.1 billion people. So that's a pretty good indicator of progress.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think, like, as per my experience, I mean, I'm just a senior, but, like, I think, I've just started having my own nonprofit sort of thing, and then, we've just, like, aimed at helping foster care centers. So, yeah, I think, I guess measuring effectiveness in that scenario would kind of be, you know, um, quantitative and also qualitative, like categorical values, kind of like, oh, how do they feel, like the person receiving it, like, is it truly helping them? It's not just about like the revenue and profits and all that. I guess money business. I guess so I guess um what advice do you have for anyone, I guess, who would like to join your program, or just AI good for initiative?
I mean, if you want to help, I encourage everyone to check out our portal. If you just Google United Nations AI Initiative or ChatGPT, it'll take you right to our portal page. So you can see some of the projects, some of the other initiatives going on, and wherever your passion really lies, there's probably an opportunity, and you can sign up to volunteer.
Sounds good. All right. I guess, do you have any upcoming like projects or anything that you'd like to share?
I think I mean, there's a few, but I think the biggest one right now is, there's always been this belief that you can't teach people the squishy or fuzzy skills. Like you can't teach people to be great communicators or creative thinkers or negotiators. I think we may have found a way to actually crack that code, if you will, through the convergence of cognitive science, AI, and the metaverse. So
Oh,
we've actually been able to improve people's ability to not just learn and accelerate that process, but actually to make them more sophisticated and better thinkers. So this has actually led to the development of pioneering some sustainability practices in mining. So there's sustainable mining now, which people thought was impossible. We've actually been able to work with government leaders, corporate executives, board of directors to improve their creative thinking skills. So when there's a emergency situation, crisis situation, they're able to actually respond to it not just faster, but think better through the risks and come up with more creative solutions that would really address the problem than what we would try to do what we typically do.
mhm,
And then we've even seen things like helping Gen Z improve their skills in the interview process, like a face-to-face interview.
mm.
So what was people thought was once impossible to teach, right? You just learn through experience. I think we found a way to actually teach and clone an expertise.
Yeah, that was very inspiring and motivating. Also, yeah, sorry if there's been cutoff issues. There's been Wi-Fi issues at my house. But yeah, I guess, like, yeah, I'm really inspired by all your work, and like look forward to, like, I guess, like, being connected with you throughout my entrepreneur journey. All right. Yeah, thank you so much for coming today.
You know, my pleasure to help. I hope these were as helpful for all the listeners. And you know, I just encourage you, don't be afraid to take some risk. If you got an idea and you really have a passion for it, you know, it's worth pursuing.
Mhm.